Hello everyone, I'm C. Ashish Sarna on behalf of GM Test Series, and today we are going to discuss the mistakes students commit in income tax. Let's start the test series. Question number one: ABC Private Limited, an Indian company, is engaged in business of generation of power. It installed a wind power project on 30/4/2017. Claimed reduction of 100% of the profit derived from generation of power in assessment year 1819, assessment 1920, section 80 IA of the Income Tax Act. During the previous year 920, A Limited Private Limited got merged with B Private Limited, which is an Indian company. Determine whether B Limited shall be eligible to take deduction in respect of profit gains from the generation of power under section 80 IA. If yes, then for how many assessment years? It has been specifically stated in the section 80 IA that as 12A, 12 clause 12A of section 80 IA that in case of amalgamation after 1/4/2007, no deduction. If there is amalgamation, then they shall not be eligible to take deduction in respect of profit and gain from generation of powers, as deduction in section 80 is not allowed to a amalgamated company. So the answer is D. Question number two: Mr. Ramesh, a salaried individual, pays broker rupees 40 lakhs on 5/1/2020 to buy a residential house. His father Suresh, a retired pensioner, makes contract payments of rupees 15 lakh, 25 lakh, 12 lakh on 29, 28, 9, 19, 3, 1, 2019, 15 to 2020 for reconstruction of residential house. With respect to above payments made by Mr. Ramesh Suresh, which was the following statement is correct? So the answer, we are not going to go by the options given to us. We are going to go by the logics, which is for his father, since a TDS was required to be deducted under section 194C, but here it is for the personal use, personal purpose. So when the construction is being used for personal purpose, then no TDS is required to be deducted. So on this 15, 25 and 12 lakh, there's no requirement of any TDS. And for the 40 lakhs also, he's a salaried individual. The TDS were required to be deducted in section 194H. In the previous year, there was no audit because he is a salaried employee, so no TDS obligation arises. So in this case, both of them are not liable to be covered under the TDS provisions. But in Finance Act 2020, a section 194M, I guess, has been introduced, which says that if a brokerage has been paid by an individual or HUF, there's no such provision of audit or something else. It says if an individual or HUF pays a brokerage of amount more than 50 lakhs, then TDS of rupees of a TDS of 5% has to be deducted. So, but this is a previous year question. So in this case, there's no liability for TDS. We are not going to go by the options because options are not right. So we're going to go by the logics. In case any of such questions comes in the exam, then we have to be very particular. We have to give a proper note below to the answer, for which giving the reason why we do not agree with any of the views, and definitely you'll be given the marks for that. Z Limited purchased a plant for 50 lakh, depreciation rate 15% on 25 2019 before commencement of commercial production. Expense of 50,000 were incurred by X on for a trial turn of a plant. What will be the treatment of the expenditure income on the trial as per provisions of ICDS 5? It deals with tangible fixed assets. It says that if the expenditure has been incurred and the production has not commenced, then the expenditure will be capitalized. So the answer will be capitalization only. So the answer will be A. Expenditure of 50,000 is required to be capitalized as a commercial production has not commenced. Delta Limited engaged in growing and manufacturing of rubber in India. It commenced its operation on 1st April 2019. It acquired plant and machinery second hand. Very important word, second hand. So the normal depreciation rate shall be given. Factory building, for which depreciation is 10%. furniture, for which depreciation 10%. And in the previous year, in the previous year 1819 by way of ECS through bank account, assuming that the assets were put to use for more than 180 days for the previous year 1819, you're required to compute the written down value for each block as on 1st April 2020. So the depreciation will be normal rates. For 62 it will be 15%, and after 15% it will be 52.70. 37 factory, it shall be 10% depreciation rate. 37 into 90%, that will be 33.3, and 8 lakh rupees respectively. 8 lakh rupees into 10% is zero point 0.8, so the return on value will be 7.2. So the answer will be, all the 3 points are covered in A point. A. The answer will be A. This is the same questions as we had done in the previous mock test. If an Indian company has entered the advanced pricing agreement respect of international transaction with associated enterprises for the previous year 2019-20, the company decides to make an application for rollback of the said APA. However, rollback provision shall not be available in respect of the transaction for a rollback year if return is filed under section 139(4), if there is reduction in tax, if the provision has effect of reduction in tax, if it is held by the ITIT. So the answer is D, 1, 3, and 4. As we have already discussed this question in the previous mock test. On 5th, on 5/4/2019, A Private Limited issued 20,000 shares to X at rupees 40. The face value per share is 10, where the fair market value is 30. X was not in India from the date of issue of shares to him up till 2/9/2019, but he came back to India on 3/9/2019. Whether any tax implications will arise? Yes, obviously, because he is a resident, because he stayed in India for more than 1 to 2 days. There is no such condition. We have to check. No tax implication shall arise as he was a non-resident, and we have not even mentioned that he was a non-resident earlier year also. So, assuming that he was resident in earlier year also, and in this current year also, he stayed for more than 1 to 2 days. So, he was a resident. So, as per section 52(7)(b), he will be liable for tax. So the fair market value was 30 rupees, but he was issued at 40 rupees. So he is a resident, which is an important condition. So tax of 10 rupees into 20,000 shares, that is 2 lakh rupees, will be levied, and it will be chargeable as income from other source. So the answer will be C. A priority is engaging in business of trading of household appliances. The director said a desirous of converting it into an LLP. After conversion, all asset liability shall be transferred to the LLP. The conversion shall take place in the financial year 1920. The details of total sales and total value of assets is given below. So and so. The director has approached to determine whether any capital gain shall arise. So there are only conditions that all the assets will be transferred at book value. The proportionate of the all the directors or shareholders will same as a shareholding pattern will be the same. The profit sharing and other basic conditions are there. There will be going concern concept will be followed. So if those conditions are followed, then there won't be any capital gains, and it will not be considered as a transfer as provision of 47. So the answer will be A. If we look at this point C, there is no such condition. There is no prescribed limit in section 47(13)(b). So option is A. Mr. X received the following gift during the previous year 2019-20. Marriage of X, no, it is completely exempt. He gets a gift of rupees from his grandmother. Again, it is exempt, totally exempt. And section 56, it is covered in definition of relatives. On the occasion of marriage, commercial flat from the elder brother of his father-in-law. This shall be taxable, because if he would have got it from his father-in-law, that it would have been exempt. But in the present case, he has got a gift from elder brother of his father-in-law, so 25 lakh rupees will be taxable. He got a wristwatch by a gift. Wristwatch is not covered by section 56, so this we have to be very careful. On 10 to 2020 gets a gift of plot from a partnership firm. So it is not covered in the definition of relatives, even if the partners are in the partnership firm are relatives. The stamp duty is 19,000, so 25 lakh plus 19 lakh will be taxable, that is 44 lakhs. Why is a foreign company having permanent establishment in India, namely Z? Z, a non-resident associate enterprises. That is a associate enterprises of Y, has invested 900 crore through debt in X. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization of X during the financial year was 150. Computer interest liable in respect of debt, assuming the debt was invested on the first day. As per Section 94B, inserted in the Income Tax Act 1961, to provide a cap on the interest expense that can be claimed by the entity to its associate enterprises. So this question is covered under the provisions of Section 94B. The total interest paid in excess of 30% of its earning before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, or interest paid or payable to associate enterprises for that previous year, whichever is less shall not be deductible. So interest liable will be 30% of the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That is 30% of 150 will be 45. The answer will be 45 crores. ABC Limited company took a sublease building from Janvi with effect from 1/7/2019 on a rent of rupees 20,000 per month. It also took on hire machinery from Janvi with effect from 1/10/2019 on a hire purchase for rupees 15,000 per month. ABC Limited entered into two separate agreements with Janvi for sublease of building and hiring of machinery. Which of the following statement is correct? In this, it will be covered by Section 194I and not Section 194IB. So, because in this case, the rent is to be paid by a company and not a individual or a HUF. So, TDS has to be deducted. It says that the provision of the section says that if if the building is taken on rent, then the TDS rate will be 10%, and if a machinery is taken, then the rate of TDS will be 2%. And also the security amount is not a rent, so it will be kept as it is, and it will be refundable at the end of the lease period, and no TDS shall be deducted on that. So the answer is D. Question number 11. Benefit of presumptive taxation under section under Income Tax Act 1961 would not be available to Akash and non-resident in assessment year 2021 in respect of related income if he is engaged in business of complete theoretical question, civil construction in connection with approved turnkey project. Mr. Aran is constructing residential house property in Mumbai for self-occupation. He has taken loan of 35 lakh on 33 2019. For this purpose, he pays interest rupees 3 lakh for during the previous year 1920. He repays 3 lakh toward principal on 31 3 2020. The construction is completed on April, that is next year. During the year, no construction was completed. So it's a very relevant point. Obviously, I mean, it's going to be the most important point that the construction is still not completed. This is the only house property Mr. Aryan for assessment year 2021. Mr. Is entitled to a deduction of rupees 2 lakhs under section 24 and 1.5 lakh under ATC. Deduction for 2 lakh under section 24, 50,000 under 80 EE, 1 lakh 50,000 under section ATC. But in this case, Mr. Aryan is not entitled for deduction under section. This is the answer because property is still under construction and it is clearly stated in the section that if the property is under construction, no deduction shall be allowed. It is only for the completed property. During the previous year, 1920, Help Aid Charitable Trust, suggested under Section 12AA, received donations of 80 lakhs, out of which 10 lakh were corpus donations, but that is non-taxable. 20 lakhs were anonymous donations, which are taxable. The trust applied 40 lakh towards the object. We have to find the tax liability. In this case, 80 lakhs is total donation minus 10 lakh, because 10 lakh is non-taxable and this is corpus donation. So 70 lakhs. Out of 70 lakhs, 20 lakh is it's a part of 80 lakhs. So now we have 70 lakhs left, which includes 20 lakhs also. For 20 lakhs, the anonymous donations are taxable at the rate 30%. But in this case, a benefit is allowed, that is 5% of the total donations or rupees 1 lakh. Whichever is higher, it shall be included in the donations and will not be taxable at the rate 30%. So 5% of 80 lakhs total donations, which is 4 lakh. So 80 lakhs minus 10 lakhs, 70 lakhs minus 16 lakh, because 16 lakh, 4 lakh was 80% into 5% is 4 lakh. 4 lakh will be a part of donations normal, which will not be taxed at 30%. 4 lakh, 20 lakhs minus 4 lakh is 16 lakhs. 16 lakhs will be taxable at the rate 30%. So now the total donations left to us are 54. 54 lakh into 85%, because 15% is standard deduction is allowed to us. So that will be, gross total income will be 45.9 lakh. That is 85%. 45 lakh 45.9 lakh minus 40 lakh will be 5 lakh 90,000. 5 lakh 90,000 will be taxable at normal rate, and 16 lakh will be taxable at maximum marginal rate. That is 30%. 30% into 16 lakh into 30%. That is 5 lakh 10,000. 4 lakh 80,000. And for the normal slab rate, first 2 lakh 50,000 no tax, 2 lakh 50,000 to 5 lakh 10%, 12 lakh 50,000. Sorry, that will be 5%. 5%, that is 12 lakh 12,500. And from 5 lakh to 5 lakh 90,000, that is 90,000 will be taxable at the rate 20%, that is 18,000. So tax amount will be 30,500 plus 4 lakh 80,000, that is the tax on anonymous donation, plus that this will be 5 lakh 10,500 plus surcharge of the rate 4% plus S, that will be 5 lakh 30,920. Answer is C, 5 lakh 30,920. Question number 14. Salary paid to Messrs. Aki and Company to its partner fall between the prescribed limits prescribed under Section 40B5. Does AK and Company has a direct tax on salary paid to partners? In case of resident partner, there is no such obligation to deduct any tax. In case of a non-resident partner, there is a liability to deduct TDS under Section 195. So the answer will be D. Salary paid to resident not subject to TDS at source, but TDS has to be deducted under Section 195 on salary paid to non-resident partner. PQR Limited domestic company distributed on 15/10/2019 dividend 230 lakhs to its shareholders on this date, that is before it paid the dividend. This company only, PQR Limited, received dividend of 60 lakh from its domestic subsidiary, on which XYZ had paid dividend distribution tax under Section 115Q. The additional income tax payable by PQR Limited under Section 115Q is, the answer will be 34.944 lakh, because it has received dividend from a subsidiary. This dividend will be deducted from the dividend paid by the PQR Limited, for the reason because it's a complete subsidiary and this company has also paid dividend distribution tax. So if we'll levy tax on 60 lakhs also, there will be double taxation. So PQR will get relief of 60 lakh. So 230 lakhs minus 60, that is 170 lakh, into the effective rate is 20.56. The effective rate is 20.56%. So for 170 lakh into 20.56% will be 34.94. In the course of such operation under Section 132 in May 2020, Mr. Hari makes a declaration in Section 1324 on the income earning of income sector previous year 2019-20, not disclosed in books of accounts. He explains the manner in which income was derived, pays taxes together with interest on such income. However, he does not disclose such income in his return of income filed on this date. So this is a flaw. So there are on if a search is conducted after 15/12/2016, there will be two rates for the penalty under section 271 AAB, that is 30% and 60%. If the return is filed, manner is explained, taxes are paid, then it will be 30%. Otherwise, it will be 60%. So penalty under section 60% will be paid. It's a theoretical question. In order to claim relief under the tax treaty in India, non-resident should produce tax residency certificate. It's a very simple question. A Limited filed a return of income for assessment year 2021 on 30 September 2020. The returns reflected for scrutiny in section 143. The time limit for issue of notice is, the answer is C, because it will be issued within 9 months from the end of the assessment year, from the end of the financial year in which return is filed. So return is filed on 30th September 2020. End of this year is 2021, 31st March 2021, and from 9 months. 9 months will be calculated from 31st March 2021. So it is 30th September 2021. Samrat, resident in India, has earned an income of rupees 4 lakh by way of lump sum consideration for a copyright of a book, being a work of literally from a publisher in country E, with which India does not have a DTA. The same has to be taxed at a flat rate of 5%. In country E, in India, his gross total income is 7 lakh. The double taxation relief will be, first of all, the double taxation relief is governed by section 91, which says that deduction of lower of average tax rate or flat tax rate on foreign income will be allowed to the SSE as a relief under section 91. In this case, first of all, we'll calculate average Indian tax rate. Average Indian tax rate will be 7 lakh minus 4 lakh, 7 lakh minus 3 lakhs, where first of all see the facts of the question, that it is a copyrights of a book consultation receipt. This is a deduction allowed under section 80 QQB, wherein it is specifically stated that deduction will be lower of 3 lakh rupees or the actual amount received, whichever is lower. Here the amount received is 4 lakh, so the deduction will be 3 lakhs. So 7 lakh minus 3 lakh, total taxable income in India will be 4 lakh minus 2.5 lakh relief. 1.5 lakh into 5% will be 7,500 plus 4% surcharge 7,800 will be the tax rate, total tax. 7,800 divided by the total income of assessee, that is 4 lakh. 7,800 upon 4 lakh, that will be 1.95%. 1.95%. And for the foreign income, we have to calculate foreign income also. Here the average, now we have found the average Indian tax rate, which is 1.95%, and the flat rate is 5%. So the lower deduction will be 1.9% or 5% on foreign income, where the foreign income is 4 lakh minus 3 lakh. Deduction has to be allowed. So foreign income is 4 lakh minus 3 lakh, 1 lakh. So 1.95% of 1 lakh will be 1950, or 5% of 1 lakh, which is 5,000. So deduction will be 1950. Question number 20. Ship Cargo Inc., a company based in Netherlands operating its ship to and fro China port, collected freight of rupees 85 lakh, demurrages 5 lakh, handling charges 2 lakh, in respect of goods shipped at Cochin Airport. It incurred expenses of 35 lakh. Okay, in respect of goods shipped to at Rotterdam, Netherlands, it received to be 50 lakhs in India. Its tax liability for the assessment year 2021 is, and we have given four options. First of all, for a shipping business, even if it is resident, resident, non-resident individual, foreign company, or any kind of such arrangement, in that case, a rate of 40% will be a tax rate of 40% will be levied, and after the surcharge, that will be effective rate will be around 41.6, I guess. So in and also a catch is that in case of shipping business, there is a flat rate of 7.5% of the total receipts that will be the profit of the shipping business. And for that, demurrages or any similar charges that will become part of the total receipt. In this case, the goods have been taken from Cochin and to and fro has been done. So 85 lakh receipts plus demurrages or any such charges, that which is the income that will be included. So 85 lakh plus 5 lakh plus 2 lakh, and also this amount of rupees 50 lakh is received in India. This will also become part of the total receipts. So if you plus, so 85 plus 2 plus 5 plus 50, that is 142. 142 into 7.5%, that becomes 10 lakh 65,000. So the total profit is 10 lakh 65,000. And after we apply, because a direct rate is 40%, that is clear in the as per the language of the section, as per income tax provisions, as per income tax act, that 40% plus a surcharge will be levied. So the flat rate becomes 40% plus surcharge, which becomes 41.6%. So 10 lakh 65,000 into 41.6%, that becomes 4 lakh 43,040 rupees. So the answer is B. Question number 1. The trading profit and loss of Pingu Trading Private Limited has business of agriculture produce consumer items and other products for the year ended 31/3/2020 is as under. These are the details and these are the adjustments. So one by one we will discuss and then we will see the final solution. A survey was conducted in which it was revealed that rupees 8,75,000 was a closing stock on 31/3/2019. So it will, that means it's a closing, it's an opening stock for the current year. And sale of rupees 75,000 was made, not recorded in the books. We have will be added in the as a sale. The value of closing stock after considering these facts prepared by this on that means the closing stock is 12,50,000, which is accepted to be correct and not disputed. So these figures will be the closing, opening, and sale will be added. If there is any discrepancy, then it will be adjusted as per requirement. Income tax refund includes 4570 of interest thereon. So only this is income. Rest the income tax refund is not the income. Only the interest on income tax refund is the income. Bonus to staff includes 7,500 paid in the month of December 2019, which was provided in the books 31/3/2019. It means bonus to staff is allowed on cash basis. If the cash is paid in current year, then it will be allowed a deduction in the current year only. So it was paid in the month of December 2019. So the return for the previous year must have been filed before that. So the deduction of this amount will be allowed in this year only. So it is already provided, so it will not be added back. Rent of premises include a 5500 income on repairs. The SSC was no obligation. So what? Even if you were not under any obligation and he has incurred an expense for the purpose of business, it will be allowed. Advertisement expense in 2500 advertisement published in the souvenir issued by a political party. It will be allowed as separate deduction, so it will be added back. Miscellaneous expense includes the amount of 15,000. This is also allowed. Only the penalty under any laws, that is not allowed. So it is a contract for sale and there will non-fulfillment or delivery. So this will be allowed. Amount of rupees 1 lakh given to an institute carrying on research in social science notified in the section. As per section 3513, 100% deduction shall be allowed for an expense incurred. Amount of 1 lakh paid to wife of director is working as junior lawyer taking an opinion about a disputed matter. The senior advocate of Supreme Court has charged only 25,000 for the same. So only 25,000 will be allowed expense and 75 will be added back. Amount of 1 lakh paid to electoral trust, this will be added back and this will be allowed as a separate deduction. GST demand includes certified charges a penalty, so this will be added back, and only 5300 will be added back because it is a nature of penalty. Company made investment 25 lakh on construction of warehouse. This is something which is covered in the section 35 AD. So 25 lakh will be allowed as deduction. This was now they have done, this was made available for use on this date and income is credited in the P&L. Income is credited, 25 lakh will be deducted. A deduction of rupees 15 lakh will be allowed because we have credited only 15 lakh. 15 lakh will be reduced from the income and 10 lakh will be carried forward to the next years and will be reduced from the income in the subsequent years. Depreciation as per income tax 65,000. This will be allowed, and as per Companies Act it will be added back. Interest on loans includes an amount of 20,000 on which TDS was not deducted. So only 30% of this will be allowed because TDS has not been deducted. You have to compute it total income. Net profit this. Closing stock uh, closing stock was this, but which was accepted by the department and recovered during the survey proceedings was this. So this will be added to the income, and this was the opening stock. But as per income tax act, this as per income tax authorities found during survey, this was the opening stock. So this will be reduced from the income. Closing stock, if increases, this will increase the income of the SESI, and closing and opening stock if increases, this will reduce the income of the SESI. Unaccounted sales, obviously this will be added. Income tax refund, this will be added back, and the income interest on income tax refund will be income from other source. Bonus will be allowed because paid in the current year. Repair expenditure, this is allowed on assumption that it is required for the business purpose. Advertisement, separate deduction for this. Political parties, damages paid, no adjustment because these are allowed. These are not expenditure on infringement of law. Amount paid to research, this 100% expense allowed. Director salary, excess salary will be disallowed. 1 lakh was claimed and 75,000 will be disallowed. Again, separate deduction for this. GST penalty, this will be added back. Infringement of law. Warehouse income, as already explained, 25 lakh was the expense incurred. So 15 lakh minus 25 lakh, 10 lakh excess loss will be carried forward in the subsequent years, will be set off only against a specified business given under section 3580. Depreciation, we have taken the net effect. 75,000 will be disallowed, only 65,000 will be allowed. Interest, only 30% will be disallowed. Non-deduction of TDS. So this was the income tax refund, deduction under section 80 GGB, and this will be the next net income. So this will be carried forward indefinitely. Question number 2. Examine the text of what provisions contained under Income Tax Act 1961 each of the following independent cases and state in brief whether there exist business connections in each of the cases in India so as to bring the income earned, if any, to tax net in India. ABC Limited, a company resident in Dubai, has set up a license office at Mumbai to receive trade inquiries from the customers. A work of a license officer is not only restricted to forwarding of trade inquiries to ABC, but license is also to negotiate and enter into a contract on behalf of ABC Limited with the customers in India. Friends, in case it was only limited to a license services of just to receive trade inquiries, that's it, and this then forwarded to the office in Dubai, then they won't have, then it would not have been liable to any tax effect in India because it was just office and this is permitted by the government of India, by the RBI, that this is allowed. So there won't be any kind of establishment in India. But in case if it is not only restricted to trade inquiries but also to the license services like negotiating and enter contracts, then it has establishment in India. If license office is maintained solely for the purpose of carrying out activities which are preparatory or auxiliary in nature, such as activities approved by the RBI, then no business connection is established. In this case, had the license office been restricted only to forwarding of trade inquiries to ABC Limited, Dubai-based company's activities would have not constituted business connection. However, activities of a license office extends to also negotiating and enter into contracts on behalf of ABC Limited with the customers in India, on account of which business connection is established. XYZ Inc., a resident of USA, set up a branch in Hyderabad for purpose of purchase of raw material for manufacturing its products. The branch is also selling its products manufactured by XYZ Inc. and it's providing sales related services to the customer. As per, first of all, let's come to a conclusion. In the present case, how a business connection would be established is it is not only engaged in purchase of raw material but also in the selling of such manufactured products. So it is providing related services also on behalf of XYZ. So it has a business connection. As per opening sentence in explanation 2 of 9.1, business connection shall include activity carried out through a person in India acting on behalf of non-resident. Actually, in this case, since branch office is carrying out activity of purchasing raw material for XYZ agency and selling products to customer in India and providing sale related services for them on behalf of XYZ agency, business connection established. It may be noted that in a case of non-resident, no business connection would be established if the person acting on behalf of the non-resident limited to purchase of raw materials or merchandise for the non-resident. So if it was only limited to purchase, then as per clause A of expansion 2, there was no business connection. But in the present case, it is also engaged in the selling. So business connection is established. Mr. Rajay, resident in India, based in Delhi, is appointed as an agency by PQR Inc., a company based in UK for tracking the Indian markets. He is conveying the orders and then communicated to PQR Inc. in UK. He has no authority to accept the orders. Very important point, all the orders were directly received, accepted, and after receipt of the price, value, delivery, everything is done by PQR outside India. No purchase of raw material or manufacturing of any goods took place in India. He was only entitled to receive commission. In this case, in the present case, business connection would not be established since Mr. Ajay does not have an authority to accept or conclude orders in India on behalf of PQR Inc. Moreover, all the orders are directly received, accepted, and after receipt of the price, value, delivery of goods also made given by PQR Inc. outside India. Hence, no business connection is established. Part B. X company engaged in developing and exporting software is having two units, Unit A and Unit B. Unit A is set up in Special Economic Zone (SEZ) and eligible for 10AA of the Act. Company furnishes the following information relating to third year of the operations ended on 31/3/2020. So every time we read a question, we have to be very conscious and we have to interpret meaning of each and every line. So the third part says this is a third year. So third year means 100% of the profits will be eligible for deduction under section 10AA. Items. Next, items, export sales, so and so, domestic sale, duty drawback, export on a profit on sale of import license, entitlement, salaries paid, other expenses, net profit. So the net profit for the unit A, that is for which deduction is allowed, that is under section 10AA is 251, and for the other one is 615. Additional information. Unit A, expenses of rupees 12 lakh are disallowable under section 43B, and sale exports in convertible foreign exchange received in India by 39 2020 amounts to rupees 520 lakhs. Export sales of rupees 600 lakhs include freight of rupees 100 lakhs, and realization of rupees 520 lakhs includes amount of insurance and freight charges of rupees 70 lakhs. So what is foreign exchange? That is which is the amount which is received within 6 months from the end of the previous year. That has to be included in the foreign export turnover. So in this case, sale of rupees 600 includes freight of rupees 100 lakhs and realization of 520 lakhs, which includes freight and insurance 70 lakhs. So the total amount which is realized before 39 2020, that will be the export turnover. Unit B, realization of sale, export sales is convertible foreign exchange received in India by 39 2020 was rupees 690 lakhs. Expenses charged and are disallowed as per section 48(3) of the Act are rupees 60 lakhs. So first of all, simply the profits shall be net profit 251 and plus 615. We'll calculate separately for each of the unit. Let's directly go to the solution. Just a second. Yeah. Computation of total income of company X, assessment year 2021, profits and gains of the business and profession. Unit A, net profit 251 lakhs, disallowance 40. In the first part, we have given that there's a disallowance under section 43B, that will be 12 lakhs. So the profits will shoot up by 12 lakhs. So the profit will be 263 lakhs. For unit B also will be the same. Net profit will be 615 lakh plus disallowance of section 48(3). So the profit will shoot up by 60 lakhs. That will be 675. The total profit will be 938 lakhs. Less deduction. Now this we have to compute. First of all, we have to keep these things in mind. Note 2, 100% of the export will be eligible for the first 5 years that I have told you. Second case, in case of Liberty India, a Supreme Court decision has come which has stated that duty drawback and profit as sale on import entitlement are not eligible for deduction of section 10AA. So that will be deducted from that. Will not be a part of deduction of section 10AA. We have to deduct it. Fourth, export turnover does not include freight and insurance, and rupees 70 lakh has been excluded. Export turnover, what is export turnover? It's a sale proceeds received in India within 6 months from the end of the previous year. Note 5, total turnover shall include domestic sales and FOB value of exports. Now this is the main part, first part. Computation deduction of section 10AA. Profit of the business 263 minus 19 lakh and minus 12 lakh, that is export duty drawback and import entitlement, that we have already discussed. As per the Supreme Court decision, we have to deduct it. It will not become part of the profit for deduction under section 10AA. So that will be 232 lakhs. What is export turnover? That is received within 6 months from the end of the previous year. 520 lakhs, that not 600, only 520 lakhs were received, but that includes that freight also. So we have to deduct that, 450 lakhs. Total turnover does not mean the export which we have received, export proceed which we have received within 6 months. Export turnover means total exports. That was 500 plus 100, that is for the domestic sales. 500, the total export turnover was 600, that included freight also. So we have deducted freight, that will be 500 lakhs plus 100 lakhs domestic sales, that will be 600 lakhs. So deduction section 10AA. Profit of the business into export turnover divided by total turnover. So the eligible deduction shall be 174 lakhs. Next. Viraj Export Limited, a domestic company, had a profit of 95 lakh as per statement of P&L for the year end 31st 2020 after debiting crediting the following items. And so items. Depreciation per income tax 3,50,000. Depreciation as per books include 1,90,000 on account of revaluation of assets. Interest on borrowed capital 1 lakh. Loss as per profit and loss on the balance sheet. So and so. Company is eligible to provision section 115 double BF for that is for royalty. We have to calculate MAT. And let's see the items in the P&L account. Provision for income tax, this including interest, this will be added back. So this is expense which is not allowed. Sales is liability allowed. Depreciation as per books of accounts we have to take, which is already there, but we have to see there is revaluation also. So this will be first of all added back. Interest to financial institutions unpaid before, this is also allowed as per MAT. Reserves, any kind of reserves, and reserves by whatever name called, they're not allowed as deduction for calculation of MAT penalty. It is allowed debited items credited to statement of P&L. Dividend, this will be added back. Long-term sale of rural agriculture land. So there's two possible views on this. Either we can include it in the MAT or we can exclude it. So in this question, we are going to include this only. We're not going to deduct the long-term profit. But if it is up to you whether you that's a possible view, so we can take any of the views. Profit on unit of establishment accident, this will be uh, considered in MAT. Net agriculture income, this will be deducted. Royalty received from partners, and for specifically for this reason it is given. Company is eligible assessee as a provision of section 115 BF. So let's see the solution. Net profit as per P&L 95 lakh. Okay. Provision for income tax including interest of 50,000. This will be added back as per explanation 2 to section 115 JB. Income tax shall include any interest chargeable under the act. Therefore, the whole amount of 50,000, whole amount of income tax including 50,000 will be added back. Depreciation will be added back, and later on it will be allowed only for the revaluation part. Revalued part, depreciation on the revalued part will be disallowed. Reserved by what in the name called, this will be added back. This will not be allowed as expense. Less net profit to be decreased by the following as per income, as per explanation 1 to section 115 JB. Dividend, obviously this is exempt, this will be excluded. Net agriculture income, this will be excluded. This will not become part of the income for calculation of MAT. Royalty, this will be reduced, and because this will be chargeable as per section 115B. Depreciation will be deducted apart from the revalued part. On the depreciation on the revalued part, which is 1,90,000. This will be deducted. Lower of, we have to take here D part. We have considered this part. Depreciation we have to ignore because we are calculating as per MAT. This is specially for royalty. This will not be considered. There won't be any effect of this because we are calculating MAT, income tax as payable as per MAT. So in while calculating MAT, deduction of lower of unabsorbed depreciation or losses, whichever less will be brought forward losses will be deducted, whichever is lower. In case unabsorbed depreciation is 4,10,000 and the total amount is 4,70,000. So that means brought forward losses is 60,000 that will be deducted. And then we have to calculate as per present rate. This will be the answer. These will be allowed as per MAT. penalty for law, and this is for the second point is for that is a possible view, alternate view can be taken instead of this. So 10 lakh profit will be reduced. No adjustment is required in respect of interest from borrowed capital of 1 lakh payable to Wired, not debited to statement of P&L. Since the net profit as per statement of P&L prepared as per Companies Act has to be considered, and the item specified for exclusion and inclusion under section alone has to be considered while computed. Because for calculating MAT, we're given specified that this will be allowed or this will not be allowed. So if all the conditions are satisfied and as per the questions, we have seen all the conditions whether this will be allowed, and these all the conditions are being specified in the section 115 JB. So we are not calculating as per the logics and understanding. We are going by the language of law, which is stated in the section 115 JB, which says that this will be allowed and this will not be allowed. Depreciation is not relevant for computing. Right? Yeah. Next question. Examine whether the GAR can be invoked to deny the treaty benefit in the following case, assuming that all the conditions prescribed for application of GAR are being satisfied. First of all, general anti-avoidance rules will be applied only if these conditions are satisfied. Main purpose is reduction of tax, that is for tax benefit. Existence of some tainted element, that is not a genuine element, but is for a damage. Lacks commercial substance, that is for just for the general purpose of tax benefit. There's no commercial activities being carried, and just for the reduction of tax, and there's some element of evading taxes included. So in that case, GAR will apply. X Private Limited Indian company and Y Private Limited 100% subsidiary Jan Limited located in country A formed a joint venture XY Private Limited in India on this day. As per joint venture, 51 shares will be held by Indian company and 49% shares will be held by Y Limited, which is a subsidiary of Jan Limited. There's no business activity. So that means there's no commercial substance. Y Limited till now there's no commercial substance. While private limited is designated as permitted transferee of Jan Limited, permitted transferring means through shares of XY Limited are held by Y. So obviously it's 100% subsidiary of Jan Limited. So that means all the voting rights of the management right to sell are vested with Jan Limited only. On 1930-2003, shares of Y Limited are sold to P Limited, which is a group of X private limited. So that means there's a routing of shares. As per tax treaty between India and country, there is no capital gain. That means just for the purpose of evading capital gains, this company was formed. This company transferred the shares. First of all, shares were purchased by Y Limited. Then the Y Limited sold the shares to P Limited only, who is a subsidiary of, who is a group company of X Limited only. So there is some element of tax benefit, and there's a no commercial substance involved. As per treaty, no. Consequently, the capital gain to Y Prime Limited is not taxable in India. The arrangement of routing investment through country A would result in tax benefit. Since there is no business purpose in incorporating a company Y, 100% subsidiary of Jan Limited in country A, it can be said the main purpose of is to obtain tax benefit. On the question of whether the arrangement, this is again saying that there is no commercial substance involved. Additionally, the fact all shareholders of Y Limited designated as permitted transferee have been exercised by Yarn Limited instead of Y Limited indicates that Y Limited lacks commercial substance. So twin conditions are satisfied and JAR will be invoked. Jashan Hotels Private Limited engaged in the business of owning operating hotels, allowed its employees to receive tips from the customer by virtue of their employment. The tips were also collected directly by the hotel company from the customer when payments were made through their credit card. The hotel company thereafter reimbursed the tips to the employees. The assessing of treated the receipts as the salary. which were liable to be deducted for TDS under Section 192. Since the payments had not been deducted on such payments, the assessee treated the company as a assessee in default under Section 201. So we have to discuss whether the tips given to the by the customers to the waiters over there, to the employees over there, whether it will be a part of salary or not. So first of all, we have to consider if there's an employer-employee contract, there won't be any such condition that they will be entitled to such tips, and it is a directly a payment from customer to the waiters or the employees of the hotel for which the tips is given, and the hotel acts as a trustee only. So there is no such condition that it will become part of the contract. So it does not fulfill the criteria of the salary. Whether TDS has reduction in Section 192 on tips distributed by the employer to employees, and tips distributed shall be treated as salary, and whether employer will be treated as default or failure to deduct TDS. In ITC Limited, tips collected by hotel from customer paid to employer does not amount to salary from employer, hence employer was not elected TDS. It was held in that case. Tips were received by an employee in a fiduciary capacity as trustee for the payment they were received from customers, which they dispersed to the employees for services rendered to customers. There was therefore no reference to contract of employment, which when these payments were paid by employer to employee. Conclusion: no tax was liable to be deducted in Section 192 on the tips distributed by the company, as per Supreme Court decision. So it is not part of salary. Private, private limited, a company engaged in shipbreaking activity. Some sold some old and used plates, wood, etc. in respect of they did not collect tax from the buyer. The company claimed that such items are usable as such, hence these are not scrapped to attract the provisions of collection of tax at so the assessing of treated such items as nature of scrap and raise a demand under Section 201. So we have to first of all to see whether it will amount to that the items will amount to scrap. We have to look into the nature of business being carried by the assessee, in which and in the present case it is engaged in shipbreaking activity only. So these are not scraps; these are the material. What what is in case any what is scrap? In case anything is made and and something which is to be neglected from that is extracted, and that is a scrap. In this case, it does not satisfy that condition. Priya Blue Industries Limited. Shipbreaking activity sold some old and used plates. It did not produce any documents or paper to show collection of. Therefore, the assessing observed the assessee claimed that such items are usable as such, and hence they are not scrap. The court held that the waste and scrap must form from the manufacture of mechanical working of the material, which is definitely not usable as such because of breakage, cutting, wear, or other reason. Since assessors engage in the shipbreaking activity only, these items are finished goods obtained from such activity. These are not something which are to be set apart from the finished goods. So these are the items to be used as such, and these are one of the main activities of the main final products of the ship breaking company, and they are selling it as such, which is allowable, which does not amount to a scrap. It does not satisfy the definition of waste and scrap. Hence, they are not waste and scrap through commercially known as scrap. So they are not liable to be for which TCS to be deducted. So and so company is a partnership firm for the year ended 31/3/2020. The following particulars are made available to you in respect of the trading business. Secret commission 50,000. This is obviously never will be allowed. This is kind of corruption. 12 lakh commission paid to a partner's sons, which is 0.5% of the sale value. That means the salary we have from this we can calculate the total amount of sale part without TDS. So if the TDS is not deducted, then the 30% will be disallowed. The loss in respect of above business after considering the above debited to the profit and loss account are business loss 80 lakhs, Unabsorbed depreciation 19 lakh. In addition, he has a warehouse business covered by 35 AD loss suffered. There is 55 lakh. The return is filed on this date. Specify the items which are eligible for carry forward for subsequent year. Will your answer be different? The sum is filed return on 29/12/2020. In this case, the sale is above 1 CR or 2 CR as the case may be. So it is liable to audit because 12 lakh divided by 0.5% will amount to 24 crore CR. 24 crore, I guess. So it will be liable to audit. So the end date will be September only. So even if the return is filed on this date or this date, these are returns filed after due date. So losses will not be allowed to be carried forward. First of all, we'll see the calculation. Loss 80 lakh. This will be disallowed. 30% will be disallowed. So the losses will be 75 lakh 90,000. The partnership firm turnover exceeds 1 CR. Hence, it is liable to tax audit. The due date will be, in case return has been filed after due date, that don't say he is not eligible to carry forward losses of this. And if the losses from specified business and its losses from specified business, definitely as per section, since as per section 80, read with section 139(3), return of filing return of loss on or before due date is necessary for carry forward of losses. However, this restriction is not for unabsorbed depreciation. So 19 lakh will be allowed to be carry forward. The answer will be same because both dates are beyond the specified date. Rule 10 MA 25 or 24 of rule income tax rule require the application of rollback provision in respect of international transaction has to be made by the applicant for a rollback year in which said international transactions has been undertaken by the applicant. You are required in this context to explain whether the rollback has to be requested for all the 4 years or applicant can choose the years out of the block of 4 years. So there is a CBDT circular which says that application has to be made for all the 4 years and not for any particular year. We'll go to the solution. This provides a roll-up provision which states that under the agreement referred in section 92, CC may subject to such conditions, procedure, and manner as may be prescribed, providing for determining the arm's length price or specify the manner in which arm's length price shall be determined in relation to the international transaction entered into by a person during any period not exceeding 4 years preceding the first of the previous year, referred in subsection 4, and the arm's length price of such international transaction shall be determined in accordance with the said agreement. Therefore, API entered on this for a period this. The SSC can opt for rollback period 1 for 2012, 15 to 31/3/2019. That is, API shall apply for preceding 4 years. CBDT has clarified that if SSC wants to have benefit of rollback, he has to mandatory apply for rollback for all the preceding 4 previous years. SSC cannot say that he want rollback only for 1 or 2 preceding years. He has to either opt for none of or for all the 4 preceding previous years for rollback. The assessment of CE and Cave Associate, a private partnership firm for the assessment year 18-19 was made under section 143(3) on 31st March 2020. The assessing officer made 2 additions to the income addition of 2 lakhs under section 40 IA due to TDS, addition of 5 lakh on account of unexplained cash credit. The assessee contested that addition on unexplained credit in the appeal. Contested addition on account of unexplained credit. The appeal was decided on 21st on January 2021 against the assessee. The assessee approached for you for your suggestion as to whether it should apply for revision to the commissioner under section 264 or rectification to the assessing officer under section 154 regarding disallowance under section 48. So answer is, these are now all the questions are now theoretical only. Section 154 provides that wherever any matter has been considered or decided in the proceeding by way of appeal or revision, then rectification can be made of any matter except matter which has been considered and decided in appeal revision. In other words, that is the main line. Rectification is possible only in respect of matters which has not been considered and decided in appeal revision. For example, the SSC had disallowed deduction under section A, B, C, D, E. The SSC had gone to CIT appeals and raised a matter for ABC. The appeal has been decided for three matters. Now the assessing officer can amend the order only in respect of D and D. He cannot amend the order in respect of ABC, which has been considered an appeal or decided in appeal. Therefore, in the present case, SSC should make an application to section 154 because it was not a matter before CIT appeals or a matter of appeal. Section 264 provides that Commissioner of Income Tax cannot make revision if the order has been subject matter of an appeal. Therefore, in the present case, revision under Section 264 is not possible since the order of assessing officer has been subject matter of appeal to the CIT appeals. So, in this case, only 154 can be done for that particular matter only. So, that will be the best option. The assessment of Foundation Bank Limited for assessment in 1617 was made under Section 143.3 on 30th November 2017, allowing deduction under Section 31(3)(7) and deduction in respect of foreign exchange rate difference as claimed in the return of income. Subsequently, two notes of reassessment were issued on Section 148. An order of reassessment was passed under Section 147 on 31st December 2019, which did not deal with the above deductions. Later, the Principal Commissioner, after examining the records of assessment, initiated revisionary proceedings section 263 on 31st May 2020 for disallowing under deduction to section 3617 and deduction in respect of foreign exchange rate difference. The bank claims that order passed by the Principal Commissioner under section 263 is barred by limitation. In this case, the revision is to be done for the deduction claim under section 3617 and deduction in respect of foreign exchange. And for this, the original order was passed under section 30th November 2017. In this case, the revision is not done in respect of the matters which were under section 1, which were subject to matter of reassessment. So in this case, if the revision has to be made, that should be made within 2 months from the end of the assessment year, in end of the financial year in which order has been passed. So in respect of those additions only. So in the original assessment only these two deductions were considered, and for this only the revision order has been passed. So the date will be counted from the order was passed on 30th November 2017. That is the year ending 31st March 2018. So the order should have been passed by 31st March 2020. In this case, the order has been passed on 31st May 2020, which is bad in law, which is time bar. The similar judgment of CIT versus ICICI Bank Limited, Bombay, which is discussed below. In the present case, an order for reassessment section 1670 was passed under section 143.3 on 30th 11 2017, allowing deduction of section 3617 as foreign exchange rate difference. Further notice section 148 was issued on, and the order was passed on 31/12/2019, which did not deal with the above deductions. Later, the Commissioner passed an order section 260 on 31st/5/2020 for disallowing deduction of section 3617 and in respect of foreign exchange rate difference, which has not been subject to reassessment proceedings. Held the period of limitation of order under section 260 in respect of matter which has not been formed part of reassessment shall be reckoned from the date of original order section 143.3 only and not from the date of reassessment under section 147. Therefore, the Commissioner passed order under section should have passed by this date, and the order passed by this date is time barred and invalid. The regular assessment of Ms. Swati for the assessment was completed in section 143.3 on this date. On 18/1/2020, she received a notice in 148 for income escaping for the same assessment as 1718. Further on 25/3/2013, during the pendency of such proceedings for income escaping assessment, AO attaches the house property for Miss Swati. Now she seeks opinion to circumstances under which AO can make provisional attachment of the property. AO in this case can make the attachment, provisional attachment, before passing the order. Then also he can do that, but with the private approval of his higher authorities and to protect the interest of the revenue. So if the circumstances is such that it is necessary, then he can do that. Time period is 6 months and it can extend also later on. Yes, it can be revoked by the AO. If yes, if a person gives an equal amount of guarantee from the bank, then it can be done. So in order to safeguard the interest, and if the interest is saved, then the provisional attachment can be released. As per Section 281, with the assessing of the empowered to provisionally attach any property of Ms. Swati by order and writing during the pending of the with the private approval of the Chief Commissioner of the higher authorities, as I told you, for the purpose of protecting the interests of the revenue, the most important word. It shall be valid for 6 months. It can be further extended, but it cannot be exceeded 2 years or 60 days from the end of the assessment or reassessment, whichever is later. 281 empowers the officer to revoke in writing. If Ms. Swati furnishes a guarantee from a scheduled bank not less than of the fair market value of the provisional attached property, which is sufficient to protect the interest of the revenue. Can loan exceeding the specified limit advanced by a partnership firm to a sole proprietor concerned be viewed as a violation of Section 269 SS to attract the penalty? So it is a covered matter in which says that it can there cannot be any penalty if a amount has been advanced by a partnership firm in which a person is a partner to his proprietorship concern. For this, facts of the case. In the present case, SC was a partner in 4 firms and he has a sole proprietorship business. In the relevant previous year, the partnership firm has advanced loan to assessee in cash exceeding the specified amount mentioned in Section 269 SS. The assessing officer initiated penalty proceeding in Section 271D in review of violation of Section 269 SS. The assessing officer recorded a factual finding that said money has been advanced by a partnership firm as a loan and were debited to a account of the proprietary concern. Therefore, it was evident that SSC had taken a loan from a firm in cash in a capacity of proprietor, not a partner. Consequently, provisions were violated. SSC's contention is that he has taken loan the capacity of partner and it cannot be taken as an independent transaction. Therefore, in view of violation, therefore there is no violation of Section 269 SS. Also, SSC contended that partnership firm has no separate legal entity because all the partners are personally liable for all the dues pending in the name of firm, and there is no separate identification between the firm and the partners. Right? Absolutely. Tribunal's view. The tribunal relying on the various court decisions confirmed that finding of CIT appeal, the partnership firm is not a juristic person and there is no separate identity for the firm and the partners being a partner. SSC had withdrawn amount from the firm and there is no reason to doubt about the genuineness of the transaction. Therefore, 269 is not applicable. High Court said that relying upon the various decisions, upheld the decision of this, holding that there is no separate identity for a partnership firm and that the partner is entitled to use the funds of the firm. In the present case, the SSC has acted bona fide and there was a reasonable cause within the meaning of 273B. Therefore, transaction cannot be said in violation of Section 269 SS and no penalty is attracted. In course of search operation under Section 1632 of the Income Tax Act, in the month of July 2019, Mr. Khema made a declaration under Section 132(4) to the income tax authorities on earning of his income not disclosed in respect of previous year 2018-19. Can the statement save Ms. Khemka from a levy penalty if he is yet to file his return for the assessment year 1920? In case a search is conducted and a disclosure is made, then the penalty is levied under Section 271 AAB, which strictly says that the penalty will be levied. It will be either 30% or 60%. In case a person makes a declaration and disclose the manner of earning income, pays taxes, file return, everything is done, but then the penalty will be will be 30%. In case he does not disclose the manner or does not file the return timely or substantiate the nature of income, then it shall be 60%, or it has been disclosed during the course of assessment proceedings by the assessing officer, and based on that he has made the addition. So in that case, a penalty will be 60%. So in this case, a disclosure has been made, and if he explains the manner, then they substantiate and pays the taxes and they file the return, then penalty will be under section will be 30%. First of all, it is 30%. In the course of statement, he specifies the admits and specifies the manner, substantiates the same, and on or before the specified days pays taxes, furnished the return, both. And it is written and. So otherwise 60% if it is not told by this. And we have the definition specified here and all that. Therefore, Mr. Khema has to pay penalty of 30% undisclosed income even if he makes statement under section 132. The business premises of Mr. Rajini was subject to a survey under section 133 of the Act. There was some indiscriminating material found during the survey. The assessee represents reopening of assessment of the earlier. He wants to know whether he can approach settlement commission. Explain briefly the basic condition to be satisfied and benefits that may accrue to Rajneesh. The benefits are very simple. There won't be any penalty. There won't be any prosecution. So, and a few other benefits that a case may apply. But basic conditions to satisfy that the proceeding should be pending as on date on which the application is being made. But in the present case, he only apprehends the reopening of assessment of the earlier. So he has to wait if this assessment gets reopened. Only then he can approach. And also, there is one more condition that the taxes should be paid before filing an application, and the taxes should exceed 10 lakh rupees. And and the taxes should be paid before filing the application before settlement commission. He can approach at any stage where any stage of a case, where a case means pending proceedings before the assessing officer. Therefore, the basic condition that must be proceeding pending before the assessing officer under section made these. The proceeding under section is deemed to be commenced on the date on which a notice of section 148 is issued. In this case, he cannot approach settlement commission merely because due to apprehension that the assessment may be reopened. But therefore, he has to wait that the notice has been issued to him, then he can approach the SETCOM, then the case will be pending. Another basic condition is that income disclosed in the applicant should exceed rupees the income tax payable. Income tax payable on the income tax disclosed in the applicant should exceed 10 lakhs, and such tax and interest thereon would have been paid before the filing. Making an application, a proof of payment should be attached with the application. If SETCOM is satisfied, subject to the conditions, he may fit to impose grant Mr. Rajneesh immunity from prosecution, immunity from imposition of penalty, either wholly or in part. Therefore, he can approach SETCOM. X Limited has two units, Unit N and Unit Y. Unit N engaging the power of power generation installed a windmill and had profit of 100 lakhs. He claimed depreciation of 120 lakhs on windmill against a profit of 100 lakhs from the power generation business, which was eligible for deduction under Section 80 IA manufacturing. Unit Y engaged in manufacturing of wires, non-eligible business, has a profit of 70 lakhs. The loss of 20 lakhs balance depreciation not set off pertaining to unit X was set off against the profit of unit Y carrying non-eligible business by SSC X Limited. The assessing officer of the view that depreciation relating to the business eligible business for deduction under Section 88 cannot be set off against non-eligible business. Hence, unobserved depreciation shall be carried off to the subsequent year. One thing you have to keep in mind that deeming provision cannot override the other provisions. It is a general accepted principle that deeming provision of the particular section cannot be brought to another section. Therefore, deeming provision can in section 80IA cannot override the provision of section 71 unless specifically provided in that section. Yeah. In this case, X Limited has incurred loss in eligible business or conduct claiming depreciation of 120 lakh. Hence, section 81A becomes insignificant since there is no profit for the which deduction can be claimed. Therefore, that section 71 comes in play where assessee is entitled to set off the loss from one source against income from another source under the same head of income. Accordingly, X Limited is entitled to benefit of set off of loss of rupees 20 lakhs representing balance depreciation not set off pertaining to unit N engage in eligible business of power generation against profit of 70 lakh of unit Y carrying on non-eligible business. Therefore, net profit of 50 lakh will be taxable. However, one set off is allowed in section 71 against the income from another source under the same head. A deduction to such extent is not possible in the subsequent assessment. That is that is but obvious. However, for the computation for computed deduction in section 80IA, this depreciation has to be deducted in a subsequent year. Accordingly, in assessment year 2021, the net profit shall be reduced by rupees 20 lakh for computing the eligible profits for deduction under section 81A in that year. The action of this therefore is not eligible. For the action of assessing officer is not permitted in not permitting the set off of losses of eligible business against profit of non-eligible business is therefore not correct. A non-resident made an application to authority for the advance ruling on 2/1/2020 in relation to a transaction proposed to be undertaken by him on 31st 3 2020. He decides to withdraw the application. Can he withdraw such application? So there are two alternatives in this. There are two possible views in this. We are going to discuss both. Which says that one says that application can be withdrawn within 30 days, and once the 30 days are crossed, it cannot be withdrawn. But there is a ruling which says that it can be withdrawn if it is to the satisfaction of the advanced ruling authority. May be withdrawn within 30 days. In the present question, cannot withdraw the application since it has expired on 31st Jan, so it is irrelevant when the actual transaction takes place. However, advanced ruling in the case of MK Jain observed that provides an application can be withdrawn by the applicant within 30 days of date of application. This, however, does not preclude the AR from permitting withdrawal of an application after the said period with the permission of the AR if circumstances of the case so justify. Therefore, following this case law, assessee may be permitted by the AAR to withdraw application on this date also. Thank you.